Hey, good morning. It's give me a second. Yeah, good morning. It's Mark here with another morning rant. Time on deck is 5:29. Trust and believe I got up way before that. Got up around 3:45. No need to try to go back to sleep because I normally get up around 4:30. So let me just rant a little bit. Okay, no videos, no clips, no side stories or anything. Let me just rant a little bit. Just thinking. I'm sitting here. I'm looking at the news, going through all the news. Governor Cuomo. Oh my God, that man. Whoa, he's in a lot of trouble. Come to find out, they did a independent investigation and found out he's been making sexual advances. I didn't read the whole thing, but I think he was making like sexual advances toward women in the office, and I think he made some sexual comments or anything, something like that. So the man may be impeached or he may have to resign. So that's going to kill his chances if he wanted to become president. It's going to kill his chances. Probably destroy his career. It's funny how when people start becoming more and more successful, more and more controversy starts to brew up. And excuse me, I'm not saying that, if he's guilty, he's guilty. It is what it is. But the minute they started talking about him being a potential candidate for president, the sexual assault allegations started popping up. The minute Bill Cosby wanted to buy CBS or NBC, sexual allegations started to come up. Now, is he guilty? Is he not guilty? That's a whole other story. I'm just talking about, every time something comes up. But anyway, so I'm watching all the different news, the $1.5 trillion infrastructure deal that may turn out to be $4.5 trillion. And I'm looking at the vaccine and COVID-19 and wondering why Americans are so reluctant to take the vaccine. And all that started to come into play. It started to rattle through my head. And this nation has a history of rebelling against stuff. So let's get into it. And I can go through a lot of different scenarios, but I'll just give you some of the major ones. The founding of this nation was a rebellion against Britain. The whole taxation without representation thing, the Stamp Act, the Declaratory Act, the Sugar Act, Molasses Act, the Tea Party, the Boston Tea Party, things like that. So it was a rebellion against the norms of society, and that's a given because people left Great Britain for a reason. Whether it was religion, whether it was economic, whether it was whatever, they left Britain for a reason to come to America and to fulfill whatever dreams and promises that they had for themselves. To get here, those that were not in economic means to get here, they became indentured servants, and then they moved from indentured servitude to getting slaves in the African slave trade, and that progressed. But after the 7 Years' War or the French and Indian War, the British government was like, hey, we have to tax the American colonies more because we are in a lot of debt. And so that's where the whole thing came through. They had an 1832 Sugar Act or Molasses Act, and they tried to do an 1863, 1732 and 1750 something 63 Stamp Act. And the Declaratory Act was basically saying that, hey, we declare, the Parliament of Great Britain declare that, and I may maybe getting some of my dates wrong, but the Declaratory Act declared that the colonies are just what they are. Your colonies, you're not really full-fledged citizens of Great Britain. You're just a colony of Great Britain, and whatever we say, go. Shut your mouth and just go along with it. And of course, the British American colonies were not having it. So that was a rebellion. Luckily, or unfortunately, however you want to put it, America became America, and so then you had the whiskey rebellion, I think, Shays Rebellion. You had Shays Rebellion where they were upset. Captain Shay, I'm just looking it up here, was an armed uprising in western Massachusetts and Worcester in response to debt crisis amongst the citizenry and opposition to state's government, increased efforts to collect both taxes and their trades. That what Shays Rebellion was, and it was because we were under the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union, and that had some faults and flaws in it, some faults and flaws in it. And Shays Rebellion, and he was a de facto Captain Daniel Shay, I think his name was a de facto leader of it. So that forced this was in 1786, 1787. That forced people like James Madison, Monroe, Washington, these people to come back to the table and say, hey, we need a stronger central government. We need to try to stabilize and formalize the federal government. So that's how we got the United States Constitution. It's a lot goes on into this. I'm just trying to give you the fast track of it. So you had the Boston Tea Party, you had the Stamp Act, you had all these different rebellions until you get to the American Revolution. And then after the American Revolution in 1783, from 1783 to 1789, you had Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union. Daniel Shay and his rebellion caused a cascade of events that led to people coming together in the Second Continental Congress to come up with the United States Constitution. After Shays Rebellion, you had the Whiskey Rebellion. The Whiskey Rebellion was in 1791. All right, and basically it was a whiskey tax, and it forced our commander-in-chief, which was George Washington, to pretty much come out of retirement as a military officer to lead a rebellion. And he really didn't lead the troops. It was kind of ceremonial, but that show of force forced the Whiskey Rebellion to come down, and basically because they were trying to say, hey, we're being taxed without being represented, and Washington was like, no. You have members of Congress that voted on this tax. If you don't like the tax, vote them out of office and vote someone in that you want. So that was the Whiskey Rebellion. But keep going. Let's go to the nullification crisis. Nullification crisis was South Carolina, and it had to do a lot with the 1828 John Quincy Adams bill. It was an 1828 John Quincy Adams bill that Andrew Jackson kind of added to, I believe, and that caused South Carolina to say, hey, we want to pass a law in our state nullifying federal law. If we don't like what the federal law is passing, we're saying that we can nullify, and that will put the federal government back into the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union status, to where the federal government had no real power. If the government can pass a certain law and the state can say, well, we're not going to follow it, then that takes the power away from the federal government. So South Carolina led a rebellion, and they wanted to. South Carolina is the cataclysm. Cataclysm. South Carolina is the catalyst for a lot of rebellions and a lot of secessionist talk from 1787 up until today. They always want to secede from the Union. It's not just Texas. It starts with South Carolina. South Carolina was the first to secede from the Union in 1859, I think. And South Carolina wanted to secede during the nullification crisis. Vice President Calhoun resigned as vice president to go run for Senate so he can block some of Andrew Jackson's proposals. So we kind of worked our way through that. And you go into manifest destiny and all the different states becoming territories, becoming states, and people want to rebel. So you get to the American Civil War, Southern Democrats against freeing slaves, and Abraham Lincoln wanted to contain slavery where it was, and then you have a rebellion. Why did those people rebel? Why did they feel like they were doing the patriotic cause? Well, it goes back to the American Revolution. They felt like they were doing it in the spirit of the American Revolution. We want to rebel against a tyrannical government. So that's what they felt. They felt like, hey, we have states' rights. But again, like I've said dozens of times, it was states' rights to own slaves. It wasn't just states' rights. It was states' rights to own slaves. I still have not. I just thought about it. I still have not read the Constitution of the Confederacy. I need to. I got that book over there. I need to go and pull it out. But fast forward, keep going. You have all these different rebellions, right? I say all of that. I take 10 minutes of your time to say this. One of the reasons, let's go to the Tea Party, taxed enough already. And they figure, hey, we're going to be an offset of the Boston Tea Party people, and we're going to rebel against a tyrannical government. A quote unquote tyrannical government. Well, let's go to the COVID-19 vaccinations. They are rebelling against the vaccinations because the government is telling them to get the vaccinations. Now, think about it, people. If Trump, in his infinite wisdom, never got the vaccine completed, think about it. If we were still kind of semi-locked down, and I'm not even talking about the Delta variant. I'm just saying that we were still under COVID-19 and all these different various strands are coming up, and we still don't have a vaccine. Biden's been in office for 6 months. They've been doing this warp speed stuff for over a year now, a year and a half now, and there's no vaccine. Americans would be highly upset that there was no vaccine. Why don't we have a vaccine yet? This is the greatest country in the land. We should have a vaccine. People should be getting vaccinated. Okay, but it's changed. We have a vaccine. It's available, and it's becoming more and more. It's to the point now where we have more vaccine than people in America. So men, women, and children. So all people can get vaccinated. But why are they not getting vaccinated? Because the government told them not to. It's kind of like a reverse psychology thing. Well, don't eat that cookie. And if someone tells you not to do it, you're going to be compelled to do it. Pandora's box. Don't open that box. And I got to open it. Don't touch that red button. It can cause nuclear holocaust. Don't tell me not to touch that button because now I got to touch it. If I tell you don't think about an elephant, what are you thinking about right now? Okay, then. So you're compelled to do something that someone told you not to do. So you got to kind of say, well, don't take it. You don't tell me what to do. I'll take it. So the reason why Americans are so rebellious, well, it's embedded in our DNA. And I'm not talking about America. I'm not talking about Black Americans, white Americans, Asian Americans, Latino Americans. I'm talking about Americans, period. Now, when you go into Black Americans, now you're talking about something different. Black people was experimented on by doctors. Black people were the guinea pigs for white medicine. And it can be proven. Go look at Dr. Joy DeGruy and her lectures. The woman is awesome. Dr. Joy DeGruy, she developed the term post-traumatic slave syndrome. Go look up Dr. Joy DeGruy. And she has a lecture where she breaks down how black women in particular, were experimented on. Black babies were experimented on to get modern medicine up to current status. We would not have certain things in 2021 if black folk had not been experimented in the 1800s. It's just a fact. And then you got to go to Mrs. Evers' Boys. Go watch the movie Mrs. Evers' Boys. It has Lawrence Fishburne in it, which, I love Lawrence Fishburne. I want to see who's all in the movie. Miss Evers. She was a nurse. Alfie Woodard. I know it was a black woman. I just could not remember her name. Alfie Woodard played Mrs. Evers. I think she was a nurse. Hold on, let me show you. If you have not seen this movie, go see this movie. Go online, go look at this movie. Mrs. Evers' Boys is a 1997 American made-for-television war drama starring Alfie Woodard and Lawrence Fishburne, based on the true story of decades-long Tuskegee experiment. a U.S. federal government secret medical experiment on poor African Americans and men in the years 1932 to 1972. Was that 40 years? Designed to study the effects of untreated syphilis. The story is told from the perspective of a small-town nurse, Eunice Evers, who is well aware of the lack of treatment, but feels her role is to console the involved men, many of whom are her close friends. So she knows that there's no real treatment for syphilis. And her only job, she felt like her only job was to nurse these people through the pain. And again, I watched the movie, powerful movie, great movie. You got to watch it. And that's one of the reasons why black folk are apprehensive about taking medication from the government. Go watch a movie. Well, not a movie. Go watch the cartoon PJs. PJs by Eddie Murphy. PJs by Eddie Murphy. There's an episode in it where people need to get the flu shot, and they are reluctant. It's a claymation movie. It's a claymation TV show. It's a funny TV show. Only lasted a couple of seasons, but Eddie Murphy and the people in the Hilton Jacobs projects. As a matter of fact, the woman that plays in Tyler Perry movies, she was the nurse, Mrs. Bam, on the short lady that plays in Tyler Perry's House of Pain. Her voice was the actor. I didn't know this until later. Her voice was the actor in that cartoon. She was the lady that was saying next behind that screen or whatever. But her voice is in there, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to give black folk the flu shot, and they're apprehensive about getting it, and they make it seem like it's so secretive. So that's why black folk are apprehensive about getting the flu shot. They don't trust what the government is going to put in their arms. And so so you have that situation. You have Americans in general just being rebellious. How dare you tell me what to do? And then you have black folks saying, I don't trust the government to put anything in my arm. So how do you fix that? It's too late to fix it. That's the problem. It's embedded in our DNA. It's who we are. We are a rebellious nature. We are a rebellious nation. No one can tell us what to do. And that may be at our own detriment. We may become so arrogant, so headstrong, so independent that it kills us because we don't trust government. Reagan said, government is not the solution to our problems. Government is the problem. And Republicans have ran with that. So that's all I want to talk about. Like I said, that was just a little quick history lesson on why this country is so rebellious, why this country is reluctant to take the COVID-19 vaccination. Now, again, I'll go to another pop culture reference. Grandpa Simpson, Homer Simpson's father, he gets a check from the government. And go back to the episode where I think someone shot Mr. Burns. And they're asking Grandpa where he get all this money from. And he said he gets it from the government. And they were like, well, what for? And he was like, I didn't earn it. I don't need it. But if they miss one check, I'll raise holy hell. So that's America. That explains America to a T. If you don't create the vaccine, we're mad at you. If you do create the vaccine, I'm not taking that shit. You can't tell me what to do. So you got that balance. So there's no way right now to put trust back in the federal government. Now, it's sad to say that more people are going to die before people start to wake up and say, okay, because you have people on their deathbed saying, I should have taken it. Can I take it now? And it's too late. So you have a choice to make. It's your choice. The government, the only people that the government can mandate people taking the vaccines are people that have contracts with the federal government employees that include the military. So President Biden, as commander in chief, he has not said, service members, you will take it. He has not done that yet, but it's coming. I think it's coming. So if any service members are reluctant to get the vaccine, it'll be just like the flu shot. We are mandated to get the flu shot. And one time, just quick story, if you stay here this long, thank you. But real quick, I got promoted and I got orders to Jacksonville, North Carolina. I'm in California. I got orders to Jacksonville. So we're getting ready to move. Now, this is around the wintertime, and I have to take the vaccine. This is right after the government shutdown of 2013. So I had to wait a couple of months. But then once everything picked back up, I got my orders, I was able to PCS. I tried to avoid getting the flu shot. So I checked out of medical, I checked out of dental, I checked out of every place. I got everything, and I'm done, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I told my wife, I say, look, I didn't get the flu shot. I'm cool. We ain't got to take that flu shot. So I made it out of getting the flu shot. There's no way I'm going to get this flu shot. Well, I get to Jacksonville. I'm checking in. I've checked in. Everything is cool. I get a phone call. Hey, Gunny, you don't have the flu shot on your records. You need to come get the flu shot. God. They caught me. So I tried to escape from getting the flu shot, ended up having to get the flu shot. Sometimes you meet your what's the quote I'm looking for? Shannon Sharp said it so beautifully. And I know it's not his quote, but he stated it pretty good. Sometimes you meet your calling on the same road in which you try to avoid it. Something like that. But yeah, that's just a quick history lesson on why Americans are so reluctant to take the COVID-19 vaccination, why Republicans still feel like they are in the rebellion. Go back to some of my videos where I talk about where I show you videos of Republicans saying things like, "Hey, Republican Party, you are like the protesters of the American Revolution." They always go back to the American Revolution, go back to the propaganda of the Civil War. They always talk about being rebels, and that's why the South prided itself in being rebels. Some schools in the South are rebels as their mascot, and that's who they thought they were. They thought they were in the same spirit as the American Revolutionary fighters. So that's quick, cut and dry. Let me get up out of here, people. It's 5:51. I'll be getting out of here in about 30 minutes. But I just want to give you guys a quick history lesson on why Americans were so rebellious and why they're not taking the COVID-19 vaccination flu shot. So, yeah. So I wasn't planning on doing a video actually, but I just thought about it and thought I'd just go out here and do a little rant. So thank you guys for sticking around. If you stuck around, and hey, what today is? Today is Wednesday. Have a great Wednesday. All right. Y'all take care. I'm out.